Yeah. Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll now call the city council special meeting to order for May the 16th, 6 p.m. Please rise to the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Pray with me. Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. Lord, we ask that your will be done here tonight, Father. Lord, we ask specifically that you would be with the families, Lord, of this tragic event that happened yesterday, Malik. Father, we ask that you would just touch that family, Lord. Ask that you would, Lord, be with them, help to heal that family, Father. Ask that something good would come out of this tragedy, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember McGuire. Here. Councilmember McCure. Here. Councilmember Taylor. Here. Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Here.
Mayor Anderson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, we only have one item on the agenda. This will be the selection committee to select the company reference for the CDBG MIT program. Jerry, if you'd like to give us an overview of what we're supposed to be doing here.
The way this is generally done is that the presenters will present their qualifications and why they should be selected. You have scoring sheets. I know that none of you would do this, but the scoring is supposed to be, you can't score somebody that you prefer. And I always tell commissions this, that, you know, so high that nobody else can win, or the others so low that they can't win. And I know you wouldn't do that, but I always say it just so people know it. Other than that, it's your opinion as to their qualifications based on the scoring sheets.
Okay. Everyone understand that? All right. Having said that, which one of our presenters would like to go first? Okay. You in the back there? Please give your name and address for the record. That'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm David Fox with Fred Fox Enterprise. Thank you for letting me present to you tonight. Just got a little PowerPoint presentation to go over with you real quick.
Okay.
Page one, pretty much self-explanatory. On page two, we get into our information about our company. Fred Fox Enterprise was established in 1984 by my father, Fred Fox. Is this microphone on?
Is his microphone on?
That better?
Yep,
Yep.
better.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
All right. Fred Fox Enterprise was established in 1984 by Fred Fox. My father's a family business. He's been in business for over 39 years. We've done over 400 CDBG projects, but the mitigation falls underneath. Under the category of CDBG, the 400 projects breaks out to 69 housing, 192 neighborhood projects, 46 commercial revitalization, 43 economic development, 32 disaster recovery, and then down to the mitigation is 26 projects. Give you an idea of the projects we work with on mitigation that we've done that we're working with currently. City of Cottondale, we're doing a new water well project. Cross City, we're doing a drainage project. DeSoto County, we're doing a bridge repair and stormwater project. Edgewater, we've got a couple of drainage canals we're working with. Fort Meade is a sanitary sewer line replacement project. Lake Butler is a sanitary sewer project. And then the city of Palatka We're doing a community center, what's called Price Martin, then a sewer system study project. We're all MIT funded. Some other MIT projects we're working with presently, City of Sebring, working with 4 projects with them on the police station renovation, 2 fire stations, water plants, 4 of their water plants, sanitary sewer collection system, and the potable water system. Also work with the City of Vernon on a sanitary sewer plant in the town of Wausau, stormwater drainage. Those are all the MIT projects. So we're pretty familiar with MIT. Staff experience. Fred Fox, owner and president. David Fox, myself. Fred's been doing this for 40 years. He started off with the City of Plaque as the building official, and they got him to grant writing. From there, he went public or private and been doing it since. I've been with the company for 32 years. I do a lot of the housing rehabilitation programs, the field work, surveying for applications, employee interviews. So I'm doing the day-to-day, mostly on the road kind of items. Melissa Fox, as you can see, we're all Foxes all going on this list, so we're all family. She'll work with if we get hired by you, she'll work with you on the day-to-day financials, the reporting, those items. Patrick Howard works with us about 2 years. He used to work for DEO for 15 years. He'll work with you on policies, making sure all your policies are up to date, application prep, those kind of items. And then Marie Fox is an environmental review specialist, and it's an environmental review process. Our approach, when going after a new MIT project, work with city staff, determine what kind of projects you want to go after, what you're looking at being addressed by MIT funds. We'll do kind of a ranking system with you, show you which ones would fund the highest based on the score criteria in that particular application cycle. And then we'll give a city on which direction you'd like to move forward on the application, provide you the documentation for public hearings and do the presentations, and help you prepare the application and submit it on your behalf. I'm not going to go over each one, but these are some of the communities we work with in the Central Florida area. And just to give you an idea, so we are in this area, even though we're statewide, we do a lot of work in Central Florida. That's on 2 slides there. And that's just, I just want to give you some short information on our firm and answer any questions you have.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Fox?
I have a couple questions, if you don't mind, please.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
It looks like your company does a lot of work with cities and sewers and big city improvement jobs like that. But a lot of our CBDG work is basically in housing, and we're basically updating or rebuilding or housing. So I don't see a whole lot of experience at that location.
The proposal was for MIT, was advertised at MIT, but I'm actually a housing specialist for our company. I'm a licensed home inspector. We've done, I think it states on here, we've done 69 housing grants.
Okay.
And I've done most of those in the last 20 years myself. I go out and actually on the housing part of it, we'll go out, we'll help you, or we'll help with the ads. We'll process all the applications for the intake applications. We'll do the ranking. We actually do the home inspections ourselves, like, because I am a licensed home inspector. The only thing we would have to get bid out would be like lead inspection, asbestos inspection. And then we actually walk you through or help you do the bidding process through the city. And we handle all the contract signings and the day-to-day and the inspections, except for you got your regular building permit inspection.
And where exactly is your main office located at?
We're out of St. Augustine.
Okay, so my question would be, if you got to work here in Central Florida in Avon Park, where would you get the work employees to do the actual jobs if you haven't done anything in this area here in Avon Park before? Because I know that sometimes it's hard to get qualified workers, as experienced workers, especially craftsmen, and also to be able to keep them and manage them. So where do you expect to get those kind of people, and what kind of a position are you in order to get the material that you need?
Under a housing grant, you have to bid it out to qualified licensed contractors. We can't do any of the work. We're just like the overview and the setup. You would advertise for contractors. We have some contractors that aren't associated with us, but they do follow this program around the state. and bid on a lot of the projects.
Okay.
Any other questions, Jim?
Just the last thing I see, it says here that your general administration fee would be 4.5%. Is that correct?
Let me pull that part open.
It says under your proposed management fee.
Yes, sir. 4.5% of the grant amount.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, without knowing the grant amount, it's hard for us to give you an exact price.
Okay.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, when the job is done, completed, and before you submit your voucher to the city to be paid, I heard you say you was an inspector, but you're not gonna be the one to go out and inspect, right?
You're required to get your building permit and your regular building inspections.
Okay,
I work between the city and the client, with the client on a one-on-one basis, making sure they're happy with the work and making sure the work that's in the right specs that we prepared is completed. So I go through the whole bid specifications and make sure what they're asking to get paid for has been completed. I inspect it, and then I do a recommendation for payment that's approved by the homeowner to the city.
so let me make sure I get this right. You get with the homeowner and you make sure that everything that was originally written on the contract that they was gonna get, everything that they paid for, they're gonna get. And what, who, they sign off on this? What,
Yeah,
how
they-
does this work?
On our paper, and every paperwork's different. Every grant administrator has different paperwork.
Or how
The way
do you
I've-
guys do
The
it?
way I've set up the program, or the way I work with the program, is the homeowner signs the draw request and a work acceptance.
Okay,
So I walk through the house with them. I'm the one who prepared the bid spec. So I go through detail, making sure that everything was done that I requested to be done
uh-huh,
or included in the contract to be done. And I
uh-huh,
walk through the homeowner with the house with the homeowner and make sure they're happy with the work. Even though there's a 1-year warranty, I don't want them moving in and the work not be completed. So we require that the work's completed and before the homeowner moves back into the home and that they're
Okay.
happy with it.
and at that point, if the homeowner is not happy, tell me what the process, your company, what is the process?
You have a process in your housing assistance plan that walks you through how to deal with complaints. The process is first I'm going to get with the homeowner and the contractor and try to make sure I'm not taking sides. If it says in the specs to be completed, it needs to be completed.
Okay,
If it's not in the specs, then I can't make a contractor do something that wasn't in their contract.
okay,
If I can't satisfy the situation, which I'm probably going to have a problem now, but
uh-huh,
knock on wood, then it'll come to the city and you'll have a review of it and decide which direction. But by that time, also before we get to that point, the building department is going to come out and do their inspection and they'll note if there's any issues also. But you have a process in your housing assistance plan that walks through how you're going to deal with complaints and
okay,
how you would find, you can sign off. I've never had that happen. The building department and the city can sign off on a job. I've never seen that happen in the 30 years I've been doing this.
mhm.
But that is a possibility, but I've never seen it get to that point.
Okay, here's my issue. So maybe you can address this.
Yeah.
My issue is within the community, I heard a lot of complaints about the quality of the material. As if when they originally sat them down, they told them they're gonna get this and they're gonna get that. But when the contractors actually came in, it's like they got the cheapest material possible. And when they went to started complaining about it, that's not what we sat down and talked about originally. There was nothing done. So explain to me, how does that work?
I have details. When I bid a house, before it's bid, I walk every house and do a full inspection, take pictures, and I write up the full scope of work on the house.
Mhm.
I sit down with the homeowner before it's bid and let's go through every page, get them to sign off, verifying. It says in there what materials, the level, a lot of the stuff's got to be Energy Star approved, like windows and doors and all that. It's in the specs.
Okay,
And then as we sit down to do the contract, and once we do the bid, do a mandatory walkthrough for the bidders, making sure they understand the specs.
mhm,
And then when we sit down and do the contract signing, I sit down one more time with the homeowner and the contractor and go each page of the specification to get them to sign it so they understand what's in it. And then I go out and when I do the draws, it's based on that specs. There's line item draws that we do. And each line, I'm like, doors would be 2.4 or something. And they
mhm.
got a line item for payment for that line. And if they haven't completed that line, we don't approve payment for that line item.
Okay,
And you're going to have some bad contractors. That's just how it is. But we try every effort to make it where the homeowner's getting and the city's getting what they're paying for.
Any other questions?
I just had one question about the fee schedule, because you had general administration fee, and then you also had an environmental review for 15,000, and then construction oversight for 2%. So are the fees that we're gonna be paying, is that all of that combined? Or will-
Yeah, so we don't know, we don't know how far along you are in your project, what kind of project you're looking at doing, those kind of items. And these are negotiable. This is just it's include a fee in your proposal.
Mhm.
And when you pick an administrator, you're going to sit down and negotiate with them. If you decide you can't come to an agreement, you're going to go to your next administrator. So if you say, well, these fees are too high, then we'll negotiate. If we feel like you can't come to agreement with us, then you would go to your next
Okay.
rank.
But all three of those are typically required with every grant
Yeah, most of
application?
your grant, you got 8% maximum for administration, which is included in the rule for the grant.
Mhm.
And then 15% would be for the environmental. Environmental takes about 6 to 9 months. It's a full process we have to do.
Mhm. Okay. All right, and then just one other question. It said in your proposal that you had done other work for the city in the past, smaller projects. How long ago was that, and
From my
How did it go?
recollection, it's been a good 15 years
15 years ago?
ago. Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Right.
You can't recall what the projects were.
I know we'd done a housing, I want to say 95-ish. And then I wasn't even doing them yet. I was working for the company, but I wasn't the housing guy, maybe like 91, 92. And then from there, I don't remember
Mhm.
what the projects were. It's been, I'd say 15 to 20 years. I can look it up on our system, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. But
Okay.
you're currently doing work in Sebring now.
Yes, we just got recently, we wrote the application and they recently picked us to do the administration on it.
Okay.
Any other questions for him? I just have a general question about the acronym MIT. Can you give us what that full name is?
Mitigation.
Mitigation. So is there a cap? I know that with the CDBG for us, we typically do ours around 750,000. And I assume that's because that's what the cap is for Avon Park. With the mitigation grants, do you know what the cap is?
It
or-
depends on the mitigation grant. And when they advertise mitigation grants being available, it'll have in the booklet or the.
So it changes
rules.
every year?
Yeah, it changes on for each cycle, what you can do and the
Okay.
points and the due dates and the amounts.
Okay.
A lot of times they all have the maximum, but it changes.
Okay.
It's not like the CDBG where you get once based on your LMI population, you're set at 750 or 700, whatever your local amount is,
Mhm.
where it doesn't change in CDBG, it does change in mitigation based on the grant.
Okay. Very good. Last call for questions from Mr. Fox. Seeing none, Mr. Fox, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Corbett? Again, if you could give your name and address for the record.
Corbett Alday with Guardian Community Resource Management, offices Dade City, Florida, for the record. I apologize. I don't have a presentation. I was advised that presentations were not requested. Otherwise, I'd have a handout for you or an overhead projection.
We do have a decent sized packet
Yeah.
that you've submitted in our books here.
Okay, good.
So,
I've been with this city now for 15 years. I have been the main contact on your commercial revitalization and your economic development. We've had 7 or 8 successful grants with the city in a row. 2 of them are the mitigation grants. We wrote those applications and they were funded. You ran an RFP of services and hired us, but the state disqualified the procurement. So we come before you tonight to ask you to give us a second chance to serve you as we have now for 15 years successfully on housing, commercial revitalization, economic development, and on mitigation. If you hire us, we will reduce our fee by the amount that you have already paid us so that you can move that to construction and not lose any funding. So you won't be disqualified that what you paid us so far for the RFP that was disqualified by the state, but it's still your valid RFP as far as your code. So we would do that for you. So you would not lose any funding.
Okay.
As far as Guardian is concerned and who we are and what we stand for, we are a group of professionals. My wife is an auditor, former auditor. I have a civil engineering degree. We have a housing inspector. We have a code licensed code inspector. We have a former city administrator, and we have a former housing manager, housing director, all on our staff. I have been doing this for 30 years. Most of our staff have been doing it for 20 years or more. You would get access to me, of course, on your mitigation grants. I would continue to manage those. And we would, pardon me. We would continue to manage those. You would also have access to Marina in our office, who did your environmental review successfully. It's been accepted. You have release of funds. So you also have your engineering RFPs that we help write. Those have been selected and closed, and the engineers have been contracted successfully, and the work has begun. You're on schedule, and you're under budget. Now, that bids will be what they will be in this economy. So there again, we will work with you on the fee. We know that you have two small mitigation grants, one of about 900,000 and one of about 700,000 for drinking water and for the fire station. We participate in every one of the weekly calls, the bi-weekly calls with the state. We provide all the reports. All the reports have been provided on time. We provided updates to the work plans and the budget when they need it, and technical assistance to staff whenever they need it. For a little bit more about Guardian, we were formed about 18 years ago. Again, we have a broad group of professionals that have worked in all sides of the aisle. We've worked on about $500 million in programs. Okay, that's everything. We do state revolving fund. If you need money for water and sewer, we do CDBG. We do Section 319 if you need flood control. We do water quality. We do FERDAPs, park grants. We do housing. We do commercial revitalization. We do economic development. If you have a job creator coming in that needs infrastructure, we do those. We've done hundreds and hundreds of CDBG and 1,000 projects or more. Don Ridley, the eldest of us, has probably done 1,000 projects. I'm here for your questions.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Corbett?
Well, let me just ask you, sir, what would your fees be in the structure be in the future after the existing ones are finished?
We've been paid about a third of the fee, allowed fee. We've been paid about a third of the allowed fee. So we would basically refund that back. We've been paid about $20,000 on each grant. So we would refund, we basically would adjust our fee to amend that and then talk with this state about amending the grant budget to amend that back into the construction, excuse me.
I noticed that most of the grant.
I apologize. The fee would be about $30,000 for each grant left after that.
Okay. And I noticed that most of the projects you did are like $750,000 on up. Is that basically where the grants that you look for, or do you look for ones that are less than that?
We've worked with the city on FERDAPs. We worked with the city on DOT grants that were about $500,000. We do everything in between.
Any other questions for Corbett?
I just had one about the fee schedule too. On your presentation or what you submitted to the city, it said based on the city's anticipation of applying for one or more grants, you're anticipating an award amount of $5 million or more based on state approval. But then I'm hearing 750,000. So what is this 5 million?
I do not know that that was from the original RFP when there was no grants picked yet. And
Mhm.
so the possibility was up to 5 million. That was possible. But since that time, we've actually applied,
Mhm.
got with engineers, got scopes of work, got cost estimates from engineers on the projects and applied for grants and got 2 funded.
Okay.
So that's why I was talking about the one for drinking water, about 700,000, and the one for the fire station, about $900,000.
So when looking at your fee schedule, is it? Because it says 8% for under 2 million, 10% for under 500,000. So is that for each grant or do we combine that amount?
No,
Your percentages?
actually, what I'm telling you is we're going to bid, what's left after we refund what we've been paid so far, which is about the one project's about 50 and the other is about 65 or 70,000 fee. And we've been paid about 20,000 on each one. And our actual bid price will then be the balance after that.
But just kind of piggybacking on Jim's question, like going forward, which is your fee 10% for any grant that's applied for that we receive under the 500,000?
No, that fee schedule, I apologize, should not have been used. Was based on the original RFP. So
it changes based on the grants that you're
Right.
applying for?
correct.
So do we get to see that updated fee schedule prior to you applying for any grants?
Yes, you do. You do. We apply the grant for the grant.
Mhm.
And then we let you know if there's any budget for administration.
Mhm.
And then the city runs an RFP for services based on that what's available.
Okay,
So in the future, we would provide that information to the city about what is the fee that's available in the grant. And they
Okay.
would know that from the time of the grant application.
okay. All right, and then as far as the hourly rates, are those on top of that percentage or is that for other
That's
services
for other
outside of
things.
the grant?
That's right. If you ask for something outside of that grant, we provide you with a schedule of hourly rates.
Okay. All right, and then the last 2 FERDAPs, Mark, maybe you know that we applied for that we did not receive, was that through Guardian or was that? I can't remember who spoke on
Yes.
those. It was through
Yes.
Guardian.
No,
Mark-
we don't know, we still could receive one for that. That's still eligible. One was disqualified because the legal description the city provided did not cover the property properly. So
So going forward, if we were to choose you, is that part of the services that you guys are trying to offer us is to, do a checks and balances and make sure what we give you is sufficient to receive the grant, or is
Well,
that on the
this-
city?
no, this project is for the mitigation grants only.
Right,
So anything outside of that would be additional services.
right. No,
And
I'm just talking about, I guess the accountability measure, of going forward if we are trying to receive these grants as far as who that responsibility falls on. I know that you request information from the city and we're required to give it. But do you then go through that information prior to submitting that grant to make sure that it's sufficient for what the grant is required?
I do, but I'm not the engineer. The engineer needs to check the legal description, of when there's a easement or right of way requested.
Mhm,
There are things that we are coordinators,
mhm.
like the gentleman said, we're coordinators, we're middlemen, we're providing oversight and coordination. I'm not a land surveyor, so I can't say the legal description is acceptable or not.
So is the land surveyor someone that we arranged with?
Yeah,
We're the one
yes,
that hired the land
yes,
surveyor?
yes,
Okay.
but before you give it, before, it didn't occur to me that I needed to say, double check that this legal description is correct.
Okay.
It didn't occur to me to do that. And, now I know better. I will say that from now on, I would say check with the land surveyor or your engineer that legal description is sufficient.
And that was the only issue with that?
That was the only issue. And it can't be cured. But we can resubmit. We can take the same application. There would be no charge because we got paid for the last application, so there'd be no charge to resubmit. And we can work with the city land surveyor, city engineer to make sure that we have a good legal description of the right of way for that park.
Okay, so as far as this whole process is concerned, like the fees that we've already paid you since our proposal got thrown out the window or whatever, are we refunded that if we go with someone else, or how does that process work? We're just out that money?
We can't get it reimbursed because we went through the process the way that we should, but it wasn't documented. So anything that we've paid Guardian to date we cannot get reimbursed for. Come out of general funds, yeah.
For either one of the mitigation grants.
Yep, for both of them, yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear from staff, what we're bidding on tonight is not some type of an ongoing contract. We're simply bidding on the management services for the 2 mitigation grants only. Is that correct?
I would say it's not it would be any mitigation grant that we have in place now and in the future.
Okay. So we don't go out for bid on a normal basis
No.
for mitigation grants?
No,
Okay. So do we have to do it that way? Can we just simply button up these 2 grants and do this in the future?
you have to follow DEO guidelines, so you have to follow our procurement policy.
Mm-hmm.
So for each, I'm not sure if each grant needs, you have to go out to bid for each grant.
Well, what I'm getting at is, it seems like 2 different things. This technically is old business, right? These are things that have already been started. So if we're picking an ongoing service, it's almost as if we're getting, you're getting unduly swayed because we've already paid money for the existing grants. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it seems like they should be separated in 2 separate issues. Is what company do we want to represent us going forward in the future? And then also what company do we want to take care of the grants that are already existing, right? Is it possible to do it that way, or this is just the way it has to work?
DEO doesn't care who you select.
Okay.
Whoever you select can pick, if it's not Corbett's, the other firm, they can pick up and go from where we're at.
Right.
And then obviously, as you said, we're going to have more grants hopefully come available to be able to put in for, and whoever you select would be doing that. But
Okay.
it would not stop just because Guardian was they've already been paid for their part. If you would select the other one, they would just pick up from the 2 grants that we have now.
Okay.
So any studies that were done and all that kind of stuff is still good?
It's really all of ours. So, I mean, they did it for us. All that's public record and got it, but DEO, right? They don't care who we select. They just need it done properly so we can move forward on these 2 grants. But yes, whoever we select, unless you're just saying it's just for to finish these 2 grants out, would do ours in the future, whether they're the big $750,000 one, which may come in a couple of years when we're eligible, or other mitigation grants that obviously we will be putting in for.
And on a yearly basis, we get, multi-million dollars worth of grants in one form or another.
Right. And the FERDAP grants.
Right. Right. So, I mean, unless obviously Guardian's already been paid a considerable amount of money. They're already halfway through these grants. It makes no sense unless there was just a glaring reason as to why you wouldn't continue with Guardian to just continue for these 2 grants at least. I would just simply like the council to be able to select who they want going forward without the weight of the existing situation is what I'm getting at.
That's what staff would ask for too.
And we can't do that?
No, we can do that.
Okay. Okay.
And then how long would this proposal, whoever we hired, how long of a contract would that be for?
Depends on how long the contract's for, however it's written for.
Okay, so that has not been set yet.
No.
Okay.
Okay. So logistically, how would we go about doing that if the council wants to break this up? Would we just simply have a vote to select whichever firm we want to finish out these two grants tonight, and then we could have a separate vote for who we want to represent us?
Well, I
in the
think
future?
that, Jerry, we probably have to put out a whole new RFP.
Yeah, you would have to put out a whole new RFP.
Okay.
Because, and you only have one scoring sheet and the scoring might be different.
Okay. So as far as putting out that RFP, obviously these gentlemen, if they choose, they can copy and paste for the next bid. It doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
Because they're essentially offering this just about the same thing anyways. So it's more or less, who do you want to represent you, not necessarily the fee structures.
But you have to follow your purchasing manual.
Sure. And so that would take roughly how long?
Advertisement, you could probably do that this week, but then you have to allow for a reasonable amount of time for responses, even though you only want to get two. So
You're looking at 30 days.
30-day probably.
Okay. So does the staff see a problem with doing it that way, or do you have another suggestion?
I guess I'm a little lost on this one. You're still gotta obviously have to do your scoring based on what was presented to you,
Correct.
both in your packet and in talking here. So you would just want to select one of these two to move forward with the current ongoing
Existing.
and then go
existing
back
grants.
out for further ones again.
Right. And what I'm trying to avoid is having the existing situation hampering the decision going forward, I mean,
So in other words, you're saying it'd be difficult to bring in another company, let's just say in the middle of a job to take over. And even though they'd be from that point forward, they still would have to sort of have a catch-up time to see.
well, there would be a catch-up time, not only to mention what the question Brittany asked was, we lose that money that's already been spent. So
Right.
unless there's just a complete reason of why you just cannot use that company that's already doing it, it makes no sense to go with someone else. But because we have that situation, and by selecting Guardian to finish up those grants, we're also selecting them to represent us with all future grants. Doesn't that seem a little unfair to any other applicant?
If I may, only
Yeah.
mitigation grants. And the mitigation grant was a one-time appropriation.
Okay.
And so there may not be any more mitigation grants.
Hmm.
It just depends on the, legislative appropriation.
Okay. So these don't come around every year, you're saying?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you have any indication as to how often they do come around?
They have money left, and so they will put out one more allocation, I project, but I don't have a time frame for you on that.
So you haven't worked
So-
on any other mitigation grants in previous years?
I have we're working on 7, 8 mitigation grants right now.
But I'm talking about previous years. In other words, this has never been a thing for,
That's correct.
Okay.
There's no history before that on mitigation grants.
So let me see if I understand this. When you say it's in the middle of a grant, the only thing that I understood is the grant's over. And it's all there is documents that are left that can be reapplied, so you can reapply for later on. Is that?
No,
No.
these grants are already in process and they're not complete. Well,
Okay.
just by now, we brought before you the engineering contracts for each one.
Okay.
And those were passed. So we're right now getting the engineers in and, having them move forward with what
Okay.
needs to be
Right.
done
from-
within the project.
and from a fee standpoint, as Corbett said, they receive roughly 1/3 of the fee for each grant.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's how much the city would lose by switching to another person.
What would?
But we've lost it already. We've lost that money already because we can't get reimbursed for it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Fox, I know he had mentioned before what we had already what they had already done, what was in place. So if he could, how is he gonna change his fee schedule based on what has already been done.
Wait, he wouldn't.
He said he would before.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we would bid a fee that is reduced
Right.
by what you've paid us already. So
Right.
you can move that to construction and have a net zero benefit,
Right.
basically.
Which is out of the kindness of your heart. You were not required to do that.
That is correct.
Right.
We are trying to be fair.
Right.
You paid us, you hired us legitimately by your code and your policy, and you paid us.
Okay.
So
I greatly appreciate that. We, Ms. McGuire did have a question for, Mr. Fox. She could ask that real quick.
We would, excuse David Foster, Fred Foster. We'd have to see what was completed to date and then we would adjust it from there. We would negotiate with the city, whatever was left. A lot of times, I can't guarantee you this, but a lot of times, whatever you have left in admin, even we would work out with you to complete it for your business. But I can't guarantee, we haven't looked at any of these. I mean, we don't know what you've done to date. Environmental's done it. Sounds like it is, but I'm not sure about that. There's a lot of steps in one of these grants, as I know everybody's aware, that we have to see where you were at before we could give you a true price on that. On the mitigation, the next round, we spoke to staff today and they're talking about they're going to obligate to the existing rounds and probably won't be a fourth round for the mitigation, but there is some other money from previous storm or recent storms that they're talking about maybe mitigation, get some mitigation funds. A lot of these CDBG funded programs, you'll have advertise project specific. So you really don't do a blanket advertisement. You're going to say, you can either advertise up front for somebody to write it and administer it, or in a lot of cases, we'll write it for free and then hope you pick us administer, but there's nothing saying you will, but you advertise for administration and then go with that service. So it's kind of hard to do a blanket all future.
Yeah.
I mean, do you agree with that? Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions, Mr. Fox? Okay. Any other questions for Corbett?
No.
Corbett, did you have anything else that you wanted to share with the council?
I just want to say that we are very grateful for the long years that we have worked here and for the relationship we have with the city. And we will work through any challenges or problems just as we have been doing. And so we have a good reference here and we'd like to keep that. And if you at any time you feel like you need to call me after hours or on the weekend, you have my cell phone.
Yep.
I'm there.
Corbett, I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, that simplifies things a little bit. So I would just simply ask the staff, is there any reason as to why we should not continue with Guardian?
For these two projects, that'd be fine.
Well, as it states right now, it will be for these two projects and for any other mitigation grants, CDBG mitigation grants.
You're the scorers. I mean, I have my opinion on who we're working with now, whether
Okay.
I'm happy or not, but I don't know if that is in with your scoring on what you've seen.
Okay. Do you think it would put a hardship on the city in any way to simply vote to take care of the two grants that are currently pending and go back out for RFP for any other mitigation grants?
I don't, if Jerry doesn't.
I don't see a problem with it.
We still have to do the scoring sheets because that's one of the key things that we could not produce to them.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Okay.
I kind of like your idea, Mayor. Let's let Guardian finish these two grants and then let's do another proposal for the future grants. I mean, I think that's only fair for them. At the same time, it's only fair for both parties to be able to come back, whether it's 30 or 60 days, to do the same proposal on future grants and we can score them separately. Because I think that it probably makes better sense to let them finish the job and then in the future, give them both a chance to come back again. And it can be, like you said, it depends on the length of the contract of the proposal, how long that they'll be here. So
Sure.
I'm willing to move forward that direction, I think it's only fair for both parties. And since it's, how long do you think it'll take to finish these two grants?
2 years.
2 years?
So for the record, Corbett said 2 years.
Okay,
Yes, for the record.
but that doesn't mean we couldn't have somebody new to look at a new grant that would come out
No.
in 6 months from now, correct?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so I'm still good with that idea.
A small town will always and forever be applying for grants. You can
Yep.
assure that.
Once again, David Foster, Fred Fox Enterprise. Looking at the RFP today, and I just got picked up, but it appears that your RFP is only covering proposed future grants. It doesn't state anything about the existing grants, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't see anything in there. That's why we didn't, when we submitted, we didn't put anything in for administration. That's why there was no cost, or we didn't look into how much funding you had in place. Because there was nothing in there to administer the existing grants. You would have to do an RFP for administration of those grants with the grant numbers in that RFP.
Let our staff look into that real quick.
I don't know because I didn't see the RFP, but I did look at the scoring sheet. So
So DEO has seen when we advertised it and they saw the bid document. And they did not have a problem with it. So they've approved the process so far as we're going along. So
but does it, is it asking for qualifications regarding future grants, or does it and excludes, or just doesn't mention existing
it
grants?
just, yeah,
Well, then it sounds to me like you can score tonight based on future.
I think so too.
Yeah, and just, if you choose later on to do one for the existing ones, then you can do that as a separate RFP, or just continue as you are.
we can't, well, we can, but we'll,
Will that be a problem for DEO?
yes,
Okay,
we're here tonight to do the score sheet for the two grants, existing grants.
And the reason being is because there was paperwork that we did have that we cannot locate,
Yes,
and they have to have it for the record.
got it.
We're trying to remedy that old situation.
correct.
Mark.
The only way we could move forward that way is we continue paying Corbett out of the general fund because they will not fund it. And what Corbett was talking about, the money, the funds that were in there to pay for Corbett Company, they're going to allow us to use that towards the construction of it because the price gone up. So, but Corbett has been paid every month by the city.
Yep.
And would continue to be. It's just we put a stop to it when we got with DEO that said you need to go back out on this. So he's not giving any money to the city. That's grant fund that would be going into the construction phase because we're already short there because the prices have gone up so high in construction.
All right, it sounds to me like you can proceed forward with it being for the existing grants, then do a future RFP for the other ones, and we can limit this one by the contract and just simply say it's for the existing ones and not for future, and then do the RFP in the future for the others going forward.
Okay.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
That's certainly my intention, as long as the staff agrees that.
It sounds like that was the intention of the staff as well as DEO.
Okay.
Yes, I'm fine with that. As long as it specifies in there, we can go back out for future grants.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would say that in the contract.
Okay. Is there anything that we need to change on this score sheet? Is there anything we need to change on the score sheet for now? Okay,
My recollection, score sheet is okay.
okay,
Yeah.
No.
okay. All right, is there anything else before we do the scoring?
No.
Nothing? Okay, any last questions
So-
before?
So let me be clear, we're just scoring on the two existing grants now
Correct,
because of paperwork problem.
correct.
Okay,
And then
Uh,
go back out. Bid will get you more score sheets later.
For future, yep.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, good.
I think that's good because then I also would like to have a discussion with the city manager on his opinion.
Everyone, please do.
Yep. Okay,
All right, so I guess we got a plan.
yeah, I think I like the plan.
It
So,
also gives council more time to, if they haven't already, reach
Yeah.
out to the individuals applying and,
yeah,
Do the applicants have any,
I think
is there a
that's,
problem with that?
but that's, it's a little bit of delay on the future proposals, but at the same time, it's fair. You still give both parties a chance to come back. So,
okay. So let's take roughly 5 minutes here while the meeting is going to fill out our score sheets. Get everything turned in and we'll have one of the staff members come grab them and tabulate them.
Yep, and make sure you sign them.
Okay.
all right.
I got it right here.
Do me a favor, do my addition tonight.
Huh?
I think my addition is wrong.
Okay.
Could you mind checking for me? Is
Any calculator?
that legal?
A calculator, yeah.
And your contract. No, I think I figured out.
That's good.
Tell me what I. Square word of it. Tell me what the square word of it. Notice. Oh, actually, here. What's this number? Right, but right, tell me what that number is and what that number should be.
It should be that. I think somebody with a calculator needs to add these up.
Oh, and I need to realize.
Sorry, I got, they can do it.
Okay, let them look at it. But, yeah.
Finance director will do it.
Yeah.
She gets it wrong, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, because they gotta add them all up together anyway, right?
Yeah.
Guess I better start practicing using the calculator.
Well, this one doesn't work.
I didn't think this one worked either, so
This one does if you need it. Well,
it's too late now. I never thought about using this one. That's what I use next time.
I had to use mine because I felt intimidated by the streets.
This guy's good.
Is there anything else from city staff while we wait? Any city manager report or anything or updates of any kind?
Nope.
I'd like to make an update. I don't know whether anybody has read the news or other than the sad news, but there's the other news about they found the remains of a Army Air Force soldier in Avon Park. And through, they were able to figure out through his remains exactly who he was. I think his name is Lieutenant Wickley. And basically he's from Avon Park. And I don't know whether you're all notified, but American Legion notified me that they would want to let all of you know that all city council members were invited to the funeral service, which is scheduled for Saturday at First Baptist Church at 11 a.m. So they're just, I just wanted to put that out there that I didn't know whether, I hadn't seen it on Facebook, but I did get a call about it. And since I'm a member of the American Legion, and they wanted me to make sure that you all realize that if you were interested, that they more than would welcome anybody from the city council.
What time?
11 o'clock, First Baptist Church. This was Lieutenant Wickley from World War II, so this is 80 years ago. They found his remains, and then through DNA, they were able to figure out, believe it or not, who he is. And found out that he originally was from Avon Park, and that's why they're having the service here. And the American Legion is sort of supporting him because he was a veteran. And so just want to make sure that you all knew that you all were invited to be there Saturday at First Baptist Church on North Lake Avenue. And I'm going to do my best to be there represent the city, and I hope that anybody else can make it. I hope you make it too.
I believe he got a silver star too, didn't he?
Yeah, he was,
Yeah, he was part of Operation Tidal Wave, was it?
yeah, he was a war hero. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing that you could find the remains that old, and
Mhm.
I don't know how they traced it back to DNA. I assume somebody must have put in one of those things at one time to find out their family members or something like that. And I don't know whether they did it intentional or not, but sometimes there are outfits that will do that to see if you had anybody, other relatives you didn't know about. And so I guess it must have popped up. And so here we found out we got a hero from Avon Park, and what did I do? What?
So here and here, we both have 18.
And so that'd be here. Wow.
What score you would like?
Okay.
His sister was 90.
Yes.
She's still volunteers at the museum.
That just-
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You know what the total will be?
She doesn't
Let
work
me
at.
know, just for curiosity, either after the meeting or whatever. Thank you very much. It's what you call a senior COVID moment.
They're also asking for volunteers to help clean up I don't know if it's expired, the offer, but to clean up the cemetery to get his area ready.
I think I did hear that, and I think that I'm not,
It was Monday, and then there was some other time this week. But I wasn't sure, I'm not sure the date.
Yeah. I get the newspaper, and I remember looking at the article, but I guess at 6 o'clock in the morning, usually when I get up, I guess I'm not really as alert. Sometimes I look at articles and I go, huh. And then a lot of times I'll turn around to some of you that are on Facebook with me. I don't know if any of you are, but I put them on Facebook, so it's kind of ironic that if I put the article on there, I didn't really clarify it for myself, but I'm glad that I did get the call, and I'm glad that I got to share it with all of you. And and one thing they did, for some reason, they recommended or asked people if they would come, that they wear a red clothing.
Hmm.
And I just happened to have a red shirt that I try to save for Avon Park events, so hopefully it comes out of the cleaners by Friday.
Hi.
Okay, well, thanks. At least I brought it up.
I had a meeting with Colonel Ryan out there at the Avon Park bombing range this past week, and they are wanting to make more of a impact on Avon Park and be a larger part of the community. There's quite a bit of training infrastructure that they're currently building out there for their fire department that the city would be invited to partake in as well. All federal grant stuff, very expensive equipment that we would probably never get access to on our own. So should be a good thing in about a year. As far as involving them in some of our city meetings, I asked them to come out to a city meeting and kind of just give an overview to all the council to talk about what it is they do and any ways that we might be able to work together. So if any of the council comes up with anything that they might want them to be a part of, by all means, let Mark know and we'll see if we can't put something together.
When you say by working together, you mean just not actually going out there physically building stuff, right?
Without getting in trouble with them. Basically, if you're from here, then you know that we have a bombing range. And if you've just moved here in the last few years, you wonder why the heck all these jets are flying around.
Okay.
So they want people to know what's going on and to, good PR.
I did read an article, I think it was today's paper about that. I guess they're one of the more friendly military bases where allow a lot of people to come out and camp and so forth. And it was talking about a lot of rules and regulations, so that there's a lot of places they freely let you go to, but there's some places they don't want you to go to because there could be an explosion. So, but
On that note, there's actually a family fun day out there, if I could find it. That's coming up in about a week.
I used to think that the lakes that you had here.
oh, I guess, yeah. Yeah.
I'll find the date for the family fun day, but basically you'd be invited to go out to the shooting range they have out there. And I think there's like a barbecue And you can take a look around at some areas that normally you would not have access to. Obviously, they're going to be letting anyone that's invited to come out there with their weapons and shoot at their range as well.
Really?
It is a bombing range after all. But I'll find the date in my email and I'll send it to Mark so he can
Okay.
forward it on.
So we could bring out some of our used grenades. and put them
It's
too?
just an RSVP, and I'm assuming that's so they can run your background.
Okay.
We'll see.
I love throwing grenades. I love it.
Probably won't get those.
Ah, I like the old pine.
Small arms only.
Like the old pineapple.
No traffic skeet, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Nothing automatic. Except a pistol, semi-automatic.
If it's legal, you can take an automatic with me. As long as you have a license.
It's a good thing we're not have to be qualified mathematicians to sit up here. What are you laughing about?
Are you ready?
We are ready.
So firm A scored a total points of 428. That's Fox Enterprises, and firm B received 413 points. That's Guardian.
Say 413.
Yep.
How many did Fox to get? Could you repeat that?
So firm A, which is
Fox.
Fred Fox, 428. Firm B, that's Guardian, 413.
Guys.
Right. Well,
Okay. We have some double checking going on.
If you total these off.
Now I got a chat question, Gary. Everything good, boy. I'm looking on here.
There's 5 of us. I would think there would, well, I don't know.
She totaled up the total numbers, but when I look at first rank and second rank by individuals, not going by the numbers, I've got 2 council members that selected firm A, who is Fred Fox, and 3 who selected their first rank, who is Guardian. So if you go by their ranking on who they chose, 3 chose B, 2 A, but then if you take them like she does, take the numbers, which to me isn't the way to do it, because some people may give a 15 on one and a 16 on another. I don't.
Yeah.
If you take the total numbers, I think you take away from the individual scoring if you. But I'm asking you deal this.
You they have points for a reason. You got to go with the points.
Total points.
Total points?
Yeah.
Okay. Perhaps we didn't make it clear what we were pointing on here.
Yeah, very interesting.
All right. Well, having said that, nonetheless, looks. Yes, please.
Obviously, with selfish designs, I disagree with the city attorney.
Is there anything
Very commonly, local governments, when they procure, they base it on number 1 ranked firms by the number of council members that rank that firm number 1, or the selection committee, if it doesn't have to be the council. So the city manager is correct. If 3 council members voted for Guardian, then you can hire Guardian.
Okay. Do you have any perhaps legal precedent or something in DEO guidelines or something that may point to that?
I could certainly say that your staff could talk to DEO and ask them, what they think. Since DEO has been guiding the whole process.
I have no problem with that. I've never seen this before.
Okay.
And, but, like I said, you score points for a reason, but if DEO goes that route, then,
Okay.
but we need to clarify it in our procurement policy.
So the council has already, issued our tabulation. So would it be inappropriate to simply check with DEO and announce it at our next meeting?
Yeah, I would just have somebody move to postpone this to the next meeting.
So move.
Staff, you see any issue with that?
No, I think that's the way to go because I don't want to have to put a whole nother RFP out and delay this thing again. And, Jerry's probably right. But DEO tends to give us different answers. So we want to make sure that we done it right this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion to postpone.
Yep.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions about this process? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. That concludes our agenda. Is there anything else for the good of the city?
No.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned. We are confused and adjourned.